Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Welcome to A View from the Garden, your weekly programming, tech, and interesting news show. So first up, and interesting things. This article comes from the Smithsonian, and it is, "These gorgeous photos capture life inside a drop of seawater." So these are photos that are one drop of seawater, and they actually show the life inside of them. So this isn't anything new, but I just found it fascinating to see such really cool up-close photos of sea life like this. And I thought you might enjoy it too, so definitely check that article out. Next up, an interesting build. So in previous news segments, we've done physical builds, like things with Raspberry Pis and circuit boards and stuff like that. Today, I'm going to showcase someone who built a game. So this comes from Vicente. They created a game called Summer Afternoon. So I'm actually going to paste the link in Twitch chat so that people in Twitch chat can come take a look with me as well, because when I go to the game, I'm essentially dropped into an environment, and we all get dropped in at the same time. So there's one person. Let's see if anybody else starts to show up. And you can kind of like walk around, and you can jump. We can turn the sound on. And it's like an open world concept, and the idea here is there are 5 secrets throughout this open world that you need to discover. So there you are. Yeah. So jump if you can see me. And you can change the color of your pants. Yeah, I'm going to wear some blue pants. But you just got here. Come with me. This way. So you can like just peruse around the world. Are you following me? Where'd you go? Come on, this way. Come on. And well, there's somebody else too. I don't know if they I don't know if I sent them here, but it's super cool. You can see how cool this looks, and this is running inside of a web browser. So when I was showing this on stream, people had a lot of questions of like, how did they build this? And I didn't know you could do that in a web browser, and it looks so cool. And so this is super awesome. You can kind of just navigate around, and also it's a pretty calming environment. Like the music's pretty calming, and yeah, this. I think this is the first interesting thing we can find. So the thing goes up. We found a pale, strange-looking alien man, and we can keep looking around the world to find other things. So you, the person that's here with me, jump 2 times if you can hear me. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. But the game is super cool. So to talk about how Vicente potentially built this thing, there is a technology called WebGL. So WebGL is built into web browsers, and it's a way of doing graphics, high-performance graphics inside of the web browser. And if you've heard of OpenGL, this is a way of doing it in like native environments, like on desktop, but WebGL actually allows you to build games inside of the web browser. And WebGL code can actually be kind of hard to write, and so there are libraries that are written on top of it, like 3JS, that allow you to write some higher-level JavaScript code that does really interesting things. Like you can build stuff like this inside of the web browser with 3JS, and there are also tools like Babylon.js, which is even higher level and gives you things like physics and a game engine and stuff like that. And if you're familiar with building games with Unity, you could potentially publish your Unity game as a WebGL game that works inside of a web browser. So that's a thing as well. Cool. Next up in YouTube videos. This first video comes from Code Aesthetics. They've been doing really well in the YouTube game. And their latest video is called Don't Write Comments.
It's time to get a bit controversial. I don't think you should write comments in your code pretty much most of the time.
So they have a really cool aesthetic, real cool code aesthetic. You can hear the nice lo-fi music, but they also have really cool animations, and they're not talking about anything new. I think you might have heard from some people that they don't like writing comments. They like writing good self-documenting code, good variable names, that kind of thing. And if you do write comments, you should talk about what the code's intent is, not necessarily what exactly it's doing. But their videos have really good animations that demonstrate this subject.
Right now, this condition is complex enough that we add a comment explaining it. But we can simplify this by using variables to name parts of the expression. Now the condition reads like the comment does, so the comment is basically redundant and can be removed.
And so a lot of times when people argue that you shouldn't comment your code, this is what they mean. Like, we've literally taken something that has a high cognitive load to try and understand what these big, long statements are doing, and we've basically labeled them with variables. So user is author. You don't have to know the right-hand side. You can just look at the left-hand side, or is recent, or user is admin. And now the if statement reads like plain English too. So if user is author and is recent, or is an admin, do the thing. So they make a really good argument for why certain people don't like to use comments and why we would prefer better variable names, more readability, that kind of thing. This video comes from Computer File, and it's about garbage collection. So if you use JavaScript, JavaScript is a garbage collected language. C# is garbage collected. Java is garbage collected. And so this talks about how garbage collected languages work.
I thought today we could look at garbage collection, which is a form of automatic memory management. So the problem here is when you're programming, you never know how much memory your program will use when it's running. So if you're running an image processing thing, you don't know how big the photo you'll be editing is. If you're a web browser, you don't know how big the web page will be. So
this gives a deep dive into how garbage collectors actually work, so definitely check it out. This next one comes from Low Level Learning. They actually stream over on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Low Level Learning. And they did a video called Everyone in Cybersecurity Should Understand Reversing.
In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to teach you binary reverse engineering. By the end of this video, you'll be ripping apart binaries in IDA. You don't need any programming experience or any cybersecurity experience whatsoever. Let's get into it.
Cool. I think one of the top comments is, you say we don't need programming experience, but you're showing us C code. I think he does a really good job talking about beginner programmers. So if you know the basics of programming, you can still understand the kind of stuff that he's talking about. So definitely check his video out. All right, next up in Developers in Tech, the source code for the Lisa computer was released. So this article from the Computer History Museum talks about how influential the Lisa computer was, and talks about what it was and when it was released. And you might not have heard of the Lisa computer. It was actually Apple's first computer with a graphical user interface. A lot of people only remember the Mac as being the first one with a graphical user interface, but the Lisa was. And the story of it is actually fascinating because nothing commercial like this existed before, except for something that did come from Xerox PARC. But they implemented it all themselves, so they had to create a programming language. So they actually created Classical, which is object-oriented Pascal, just to be able to create the user interface and create the software that runs on the operating system and to create the operating system itself, which is fascinating. And in this article, I think I also highlight how much it cost. So when it was released in 1983, the Lisa cost $10,000. And this is actually why you probably don't know about it as much, because when the Mac came out, it cost $2,500. So that really put it within the budget of a lot more people. And which is why the Lisa didn't do as well. But you can see that Xerox actually released its own user interface-based workstation 2 years before that, and it cost $17,000. So really getting a personal computer that uses a graphical user interface and a mouse, getting it in front of the masses is really what the Mac did first. And then eventually, because IBM PCs and MS-DOS were the other thing that a lot of people were using, eventually people created GUI-based UIs that could run on DOS. So this article is fascinating. The Computer History Museum is fascinating as well, so definitely check it out. But if you click on the link in the article, this actually takes you to the source code that you can download to look at the source code for the Lisa computer. And you do have to sign this license agreement. Now, this is actually an interesting topic because just because you can look at the source code does not mean it's open source. Open source actually means that it has a specific open source license. This software does not have an open source license. So if you read the terms, basically you can't use it for commercial purposes. If you modify it and try to commercialize it, Apple owns all of it, all of that good stuff, but you can still look at the source code. So I signed this, I downloaded the source code, and I'm going to show you the folder structure. I am not going to show you the code itself, but you can see this is what you get after you download it. And I haven't dug into this too much, but it is interesting to see all of the files. They're this like .unix file. But as we saw in the article, it mentioned it was Classical or object-oriented Pascal. So it'll be interesting to dive more into this. And then also, like, they have a folder for all of their applications. Like, the other thing you don't think about for, like, the first personal computer with a graphical user interface is they literally had to create all of the software. They had to create, like, spreadsheets and image editing software and document editing software, and the source code for all of those apps that were running on the Lisa are inside here as well. So this is pretty fascinating, and you can take a look there. Next up, I just wanted to highlight some of the things you might be coming across lately. So this is a post on r/data science that says 300,000 tech jobs have vanished in the last 12 months. And you see this and you start to freak out. Am I going to lose my job? Or maybe you did lose your job recently, or maybe you know somebody who lost their job. But I will also point out that this is a bit alarmist, right? Because there's more to the story than just the number of layoffs that have happened, and that's really all I want to point to. You're going to see a lot of stuff like this happening. Try to first take a deep breath. Don't let it get to you too much, and dig a bit deeper. So this was an image posted on r/data is beautiful a few days ago. And they actually show that between 2021 and 2022, Microsoft hired 40,000 people. So this recent announcement of a 10,000 person layoff, it's a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. Like those 10,000 people, like are going to have to find a job. And if you know them, if you have someone in your network, you should definitely help them with interview prep and job searching and different stuff like that. But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that that's still a net positive of 30,000 jobs. So even though they let off 10,000 people, they essentially overhired. So while it is news that they laid those people off, they still hired 30,000 people since last year. And now this is a spreadsheet that you don't have to trust at face value. One of my viewers sent me a link to it, and they've kind of looked and grabbed various sources from different articles in terms of the company and how many employees they had in 2021 versus how many employees they had in 2022. And then we also take into account the recent layoff. So like I just showed you, it's actually a net positive of 30,000 employees for Microsoft. For Google, the recent announcement of 12,000 layoff is still a net positive of 24,000 jobs. For Meta, still a net positive of 4,000. Salesforce, still a net positive of 8,000. And then Twitter is negative, but they can't find more data for that. But don't trust this at face value. Go do your own research. You can find these numbers in public places as well. But I just wanted to call attention to it because a lot of times we're going to, and especially now when a lot of this types of news is popping up, it could seem pretty alarming, but know the real story and the full story. All right, now next up in JavaScript news, Axios released version 1.2.3. Now this is nothing special. It's just the fact that the version is 1.2.3, and I thought that was really cool. So that's awesome. ESBuild released version 0.17. Now you may not be using ESBuild directly, but if you're using tools like Vite, then it's actually using ESBuild under the hood. And it is mentioned that this release is actually not backwards compatible, so it potentially introduces breaking changes if you're using ESBuild directly. If you're using Vite, all of that, this is internal implementation details, so you probably don't have to worry about it, and you can probably benefit from it. One of the things I wanted to point out is now the watch and serve commands can be used together. And it has support for live reloading through server-sent events. Now, if you've built an app with Vite and use the Vite CLI or the Vite templates, you've got live reloading, but it's actually added on top of ESBuild. Now that we can have live reloading within ESBuild itself, is going to give us a much faster developer experience, which is pretty awesome. Next up, Remix released version 1.10, and what's cool about this release is they have rewritten their router so that it works with React Router, or it is React Router. The React routerifying of Remix. I don't know the exact details of it, but one of the things that you can do is you can actually take an existing React app that you built, like with Create React App, or any single page application React app where you were using React Router, you can drop in this router, and now you can benefit from Remix, server-side rendering and hybrid rendering, all from an app that you just wrote that was a single page app before that was just Create React App. So they have an article on this, migrating from your React Router app to Remix, and this is fascinating news because typically the jump from a fully single-page application to some of these meta frameworks like Remix or Next has not been trivial. So the fact that you can now just have a drop-in replacement and now get server-side rendering and some of the other benefits of Remix is pretty slick. Remix also released version 1.11, and this has a lot more cool stuff, like promises over the wire with defer. So they're adding first-class support for React 18's server-side rendering streaming capabilities. So that's pretty slick. And then also they have built-in support for bundling CSS. So they support CSS modules, vanilla extract, And now you get that bundling stuff inside of Remix, which is pretty slick. Lastly, in interesting releases, Inertia.js released version 1.0. I just learned about Inertia, but it's pretty slick. Basically, their tagline is build single-page apps without building an API, and it's fascinating. So it has first-class support for Laravel, but this is what it will let you do. It will let you use any server-side environment that has a community adapter. Like I said, Laravel is the officially supported one, but they have adapters for ASP.NET, Rails, Django, Go, Phoenix, Flask. So you could write a backend with any one of these things and then have a client use a client library like Vue, React, or Svelte along with that backend and benefit from server-side rendering and all of the cool stuff that you get with like Remix and Next.js and SvelteKit and Nux and all of the meta frameworks that are in the JS world. But now you can use a backend from one of those other environments and other programming languages. So this is pretty slick. Definitely check it out. All right, now for your public blue screen of the week. This one comes from you from user Bubba89. And they were at Disney California Adventure. And while they were on that ride, they actually had this error pop up. Python.exe has stopped working. So this is fascinating. And if you're not familiar, reddit.com/r/pbsod, public blue screen of death, people publish pictures of various software glitches happening in the real world. And I think it's fascinating. It's like art, like to be on a ride and then all of a sudden you're taken out of it because there's a Python error. Hilarious. All right, that's it for this news. Coding Garden is brought to you by viewers like you. If you'd like to support me, please consider becoming a patron, a YouTube member, a Twitch sub, a GitHub sponsor, or check out the various merchandise that I have. That's all I got. I'm actually live right now on Twitch. So are you out there? Are you out there, Twitch people? Say hi in the chat if you're out there. You can see they're commenting on some of the stuff that I was talking about. But if you would like to be here for when I'm collecting all of this news, definitely tune in on Sundays when I get all the news together to publish it. So twitch.tv/codinggarden. We'd love to see you there. All right, that's it for this news. We'll see you next week.